Welcome to day 2 of the third online Kirloskar Vasundhara Nadi festival. In India, we worship rivers as divine beings, but each one of us is aware of the distressed condition many rivers are in. The 15th century poet Saint Kabir has a couplet about this. Malmal dhoye sharir ko, dhoye naman ka mail, nahaye Ganga gomti, rahe bail ke bail. If the mind is not clean, no amount of bathing or taking dips in holy rivers is going to give you a clean soul. Unless we take a scientific, ecological approach to river restoration and examine related activities, the Nadi will not be clean. Yesterday, we saw different approaches taken to steadily restore the river, and more are coming up today. School programs, water filtering interventions, and community involvement. We hope day 2 takes you on a fruitful journey along the Nadi. One of the key factors in river restoration is purifying river water. The Nadi receives many liters of sewage, which should ideally be routed through sewage treatment plants, which is an expensive technological proposition that we can't keep waiting for. In line with the focus on ecological restoration, a reed bed was installed in 2022 near Someshwar Temple to filter water. Let's watch how this intervention was designed and executed with the involvement of students and professors of Modern College and Someshwar Devasthan Trust.
Kirloskar Vasundhara initiated Nadi restoration mission 3 years ago. It was with the help of 12 environmental organizations working in the field of river and water, 33 plus colleges, 25 schools at the bank of the Nadi, Kirloskar employees and number of environmental experts also. Every year we organize Nadi Samsad, and during that Samsad, number of colleges and their talented students presents good ideas as far as Nadi restoration is concerned. And I am proud that Kirloskar Vasundhara has decided to pick up some good ideas and implement them into the Nadi basin. Very first idea was the floating bed, and we installed floating bed at Khatpeodi Lake, which is the source region of Nadi. And now we are recently initiated second idea of reed bed, which is more innovative, and it will help the devotees to drink the pure water as a tirth, which we called as.
त्या कुंडामध्ये इतकं शुद्ध पाणी या कुंडाचं या ठिकाणी पूर्वी होतं, परंतु आता संपूर्ण वस्ती वाढली, लोकसंख्या वाढली, सगळं ड्रेनेज लाईन संपूर्ण या नदीमध्ये सोडली गेली आणि ड्रेनेज लाईन या नदीमध्ये सोडल्यामुळं खऱ्या अर्थानं या नदीला खूप चुकीचं घेतलं गेलं. म्हणजे ह्या ड्रेनेजचं पाणी जर कमी प्रमाणात जर या नदीमध्ये आलं तर जाणीवपूर्वक संपूर्ण परिसरच हा नदीचा स्वच्छ होऊ शकतो असं मला या ठिकाणी वाटतं.
या मंदिराच्या तळ्यासाठी काय करणार आहात, त्याला खर्च किती येणार आहे, त्याला इन्स्ट्रुमेंट्स काही आणायला लागतात का, काही पंप आणावे लागतात, असं तुम्ही काढा. पण लोकवर्गणीतून उभं करू, हे क्लीन करू, हे पाणी अगदी निखळ स्वच्छ होईल असा प्रयत्न करू. पुन्हा एकदा ह्या सगळ्याला शुभेच्छा देतो.
Here in the Someshwar Kund, what we thought is we can restore this river, or we can filter the water through the reed bed system, so that when water will move through it, it will get filtered.
This temple is Someshwar temple, and in Sanskrit, Soma means moon, that is Chandra, and that's why when the design process was on, we decided to use the Soma form, that is semicircular form, during the design. Actually, the reed bed site which you are witnessing was once upon a time was dumping ground of this area. When cleanup started, we decided to have the survey of soil over here, water over here. Especially the student studied the biodiversity of this region, the species available over here, and with the results of all these things, we decided to design the things. We decided not to construct permanent things at this point. Actually, the bunds which we have created are temporary bunds. Principally, we decided to have the eco bunds. For that, we selected the empty bags of cement, and in which we initially put some small particles of stone, then sand, and by constructing these things, we created these eco bunds. In between two layers of bund, we put small pieces of coal, brickbats on which the fine grain sand, and we put local soil, and on the top of this soil we did the plantation. That's why we are getting good results because of local sand, local water, and protecting the local biodiversity.
We have planted a species in such a way that the species which can accumulate more amount of the heavy metals, they have planted near to the first pond. We have planted some cypress over there. On both the side of these pond, we have planted these Canna indica, some alocasia, which are also having the potential to accumulate the heavy metals.
We were thinking about 2-3 different approaches to address this particular problem. These 2-3 approaches were to remediate the site, to purify the water, and to make it more potable, right? And to make it more potable, we need to increase the water quality, which can be carried out well by microorganisms. While doing the literature survey, we came across with different reports that were telling that microbes which are associated with plant roots at particular site, those are known to enhance the bioremediation process. So we focused on this particular thing, and while studying the plants, we also focused on microorganisms that are associated with roots of those plants. As this Someshwar Kunda is located downstream, we focused on upstream process more so that we can expect pure water or improved water quality at the downstream. So at upstream, we formulated different ponds. These different ponds are having different kind of vegetation in it. So microbes associated with that plant will be taking care of initial treatment. In the second pond, we favored the growth of algae over there. Algae are known to remove the biological nutrients like nitrates and phosphates.
What we observed is there is change in the pH from the first pond to the fourth pond. And not only this, the previous reading before 2 months to start this project and the today's reading, they are quite different. pH is changed from 5.5 up to the 7.6. Then there will be the change in the turbidity. Earlier the water was more turbid, now the turbidity has become very less, it is only up to 1.2. And not only this, very interesting observation is when we have taken the DO before 2 months it was only 1, and now the DO, that is dissolved oxygen, which is very important character of river, is changed to near about 5.6. And on the same side, when we have seen the biological oxygen demand BOD, then that is also the lesser one. So these are some good findings from these results of the river bed restoration.
For degradation experiments, we gave this particular problem as a dissertation topic to some of our students. If we will facilitate more the participation of students in such issues, we will be able to convey message to younger generations.
During the subsequent visit to this river, we have seen a good biodiversity, observed almost 3 to 4 types of the snakes, a mongoose, mammalian, and there is a tremendous diversity of birds like wagtail, then small blue kingfisher, white-breasted kingfisher, even the cuckoos and the small shrikes. On one side, there are the very ancient built or the constructed area, but on the other side, there is a diverse plant species which are endemic, so that it has formed an excellent ecological habitat. And even there is a great diversity of the fishes also. It seems that this area have a great potential, and it will be a great hotspot of this Ram Nadi for conservation of this the biodiversity. And Kirloskar Vasundhara have set a great example for conservation of this the biodiversity of this area.
One of the key pollutants in Pune's rivers is household wastewater, of which chemical cleaning agents like soaps and detergents are a really large part. Sewage released into the river creates a cascade of problems such as the death of flora and fauna, the rapid spread of invasive species, and a terrible stink in the vicinity. What can these daily chemicals be replaced with? What are the green alternatives? Let's watch the next Eco India film to find out.
These chilling scenes have today almost become commonplace. Devotees offering prayers and going about their daily lives, waist deep in toxic, foam-laden waters. The frothing of the Yamuna in Delhi has in fact become an annual affair. When the Bellandur Lake in Bengaluru caught fire in 2017, it led to widespread outrage. The bountiful lake, once the pride of its citizens, had shown signs of frothing from the early 2000s. Today, the lake is barely recognizable. Once a lifeline to more than 400 fishing families, hardly anyone is seen in the vicinity these days. Water sustainability consultant Shubha Ramachandran explains what really is going on with Bengaluru's lakes.
Frothing is because of the contaminants that come into the water, detergents being a large part of it, but certain biological elements also over a period of time can create froth. Added to that is the rain that churns up the water, fresh water coming in, and wind that blows the froth off. Broadly, those reasons are not gone. The contaminants are still flowing in. However, right now in Bangalore, what's been set up are new STPs to treat this water and pump it to the drier districts that are on the peripheries of the city like Kolar to fill up those lakes with this treated water from the city. So the problems in terms of wastewater generation still remains.
In 2021, hard on the heels of yet another episode of the Yamuna frothing, the Delhi Pollution Control Committee went on to ban the sale of certain soaps and detergents, ones that did not conform to the quality criteria of the Bureau of Indian Standards. The use of non-permissible chemical substances in these products, the report said, was one of the contributing factors to the deteriorating water quality of the Yamuna.
The chemicals in our water bodies vary from our detergents that we are using to wash our clothes, dishes, our cleaning agents in toilets, kitchens, as well as a lot of medical waste that we flush down our toilets or we consume and discharge. So laundry detergents certainly have a large role to play, not just from domestic users, but from industrial users as well.
Experts have been iterating the growing role of chemical cleaning agents in water pollution. In the case of chemical laundry detergents specifically, the presence of phosphates and surfactants is what goes on to cause causticity and toxins in water bodies. When in the absence of proper sewage management systems, wastewater from industries, dhobi ghats and homes eventually drains itself unchecked into rivers and lakes.
The phosphates that continue to stay in the water then give rise to the growth of algae and other microorganisms, which then cause eutrophication of lakes. What really happens is that there is not much oxygen available in the lake. Plants like typha take over, hyacinth takes over, and then there's not a whole lot of biodiversity. And then you also see that some of these sediments settle in the silt, and some of these chemicals then leach out into the water as well. So groundwater in the neighborhood also gets contaminated.
Phosphate is what helps soften hard water and suspend dirt, while the surfactant enhances the wetting, foaming and emulsifying properties in our detergents. Both components are advertised amply for these very qualities and serve as big draws for the unsuspecting consumer. Bengaluru resident Ashok Panda has been living near Bellandur for nearly 21 years. A vocal champion of green practices, today he stays clear of any form of chemical cleaning agents. For the last 6 years, Panda has been making his own versions of environmentally friendly bioenzymes for household cleaning, including green detergents that are easily biodegradable and toxin-free.
If you see in my house, you will not find any type of insects. You may find some ants, but any other insects you will not find. So first part of his usage itself, right? When you use any chemical product, it is you are touching in your screen for everything, like cleaning the utensil, cleaning your clothes. You are using by hand, so you are using the chemical always. When you use this product, you spray, it goes to your nose or anything, nothing you have to worry about it. So it is completely harmless because it is made of natural things. When you clean this toilet or you use in the washing machine, it goes to your sewage pit, right? This has bacteria, right? This bacteria helps your sewage water to be broken down easily. But when you use detergent, it kills the bacteria. So it actually deteriorates your sewage system, right? So, and then you have grease, you have soap content which goes to the, finally all this going to the lakes. So when it goes to there, and including all the chemical mix that comes from the factories and other areas, that makes a cumbersome complex material which forts, and it difficult to decompose them. Even in STP you cannot make it clear water out of it. It becomes very expensive also to make it clean.
Panda is part of a group called Green Bellandur, through which he helps hundreds of citizens make the switch to green detergents. It's a notable effort, but citizen initiatives like these take years, sometimes decades, to gain traction. Currently, the two largest chemical detergent makers in India control close to 90% of our urban market share. The Indian detergent market, valued at more than 42,000 crores in 2019, has been projected to grow to more than 73,000 crores by 2027. Although a few of these players claim to offer phosphate-free versions, lack of mandatory legislation can lead to easy escape ways. At this pilot facility of Bubble Nut Wash, a Bangalore-based company that makes cruelty-free natural detergents using soap nuts, founder Manas Nanda explains the benefits of going back to an age-old, relatable concept for many Indians in the hope of changing customer preferences and mindset.
So soap nuts have been traditionally used in Indian culture for a long time. Some of our first-time consumers vaguely remembered about how their grandmothers used soap nuts for washing their delicate silk sari, for example.
Grown in some of the toughest terrains in the country, the company sources its produce directly from remote tribal communities, helping create market linkages and supplementing incomes. In the Kempapura area on the outskirts of Bengaluru, Chinnamma has been growing soap nuts in her backyard and supplying them to Bubble Nut Wash for the last 4 years. She now has plans to increase her business.
ಚೆನ್ನಾಗಿ ಬಿಡ್ತಾ ಇದೆ, ಫಸಲು ಚೆನ್ನಾಗಿ ಬಿಡ್ತಾ ಇದೆ. ಇನ್ನ ಅಂತ ಮರ ಬೆಳೆಸೋಣ ಅಂತಿದ್ದೀವಿ. ಬೆಳೆಸಬೇಕು, ಅದರಿಂದ ಲಾಭನೇಗನೇ ನಷ್ಟ ಏನಿಲ್ಲ. ಒಂದು ಮರದಿಂದ ಒಂದು 5-6 ಸಾವಿರ ಬರ್ತದೆ ವರ್ಷಕ್ಕೆ.
Green detergent companies like Bubble Nut Wash, although trying to make a difference, have a long and arduous road ahead before being able to make a significant dent in the market. But those like Nanda seem optimistic.
At the moment, green detergents form a very small segment of the entire detergent market in India, with bulk of the demand coming from larger cities. However, the awareness around green detergents has increased significantly over the last 3 to 4 years, which is why the market has grown considerably over the past. We've also seen, post-COVID, a lot of new brands being launched in the segment.
The merits of green detergents apart, the associated problem of wastewater treatment in cities plays an unquestionable role in chemical pollution of our rivers and lakes. Many residential complexes like this one in Bengaluru, for instance, have sewage treatment plants, but Shubha points out why the problem is more complex.
Oftentimes, the main challenge with STPs is maintenance, the staff that maintains them over a period of time. So you need skilled manpower and replacement of resources, parts as required to make sure that STPs continue to run well. So I would say the main challenge with STPs is maintenance.
Apart from critically examining urban planning systems, the need for stricter policy against environmentally hazardous chemicals has been brought up time and again. Meanwhile, every one of us in turn has a role to play.
First, we make sure that we are not sending out a whole lot of wastewater. Then we can make sure that the wastewater that we send out of our homes does not carry a whole lot of chemicals. So we can make simple fixes to our processes like choose organic detergents to wash our clothes, hair, self, vessels. And there are many choices that are even available in the market now. And now there are simple systems by which you can even treat wastewater in your own home, even if you're living in an independent house. Try and use it for landscaping and gardening to the extent possible. make sure that you're reducing the total volume of wastewater that goes out from your home.
In the next segment, Professor Vijay Paranspe takes us through the history of pollution in the Ram Nadi, the ways in which it can be handled, and river restoration approaches. Professor Paranspe is an expert in rivers and water culture. He was a member of the government of Maharashtra's Rajya Jal Arakhda Committee and has authored many books on water resource management. Currently the president of Gomukh Environmental Trust for Sustainable Development, he retired as a professor of environmental economics at Wadia College, Pune. Let's hear from Professor Vijay Paranspe.
We are talking about 63, 64, late school, early college days. And it was after that, the population that time was probably 5 to 6 lakhs maybe, I don't quite remember. But the rivers were clean enough to be used in various ways. One could of course swim in it, use it for gardens, etc. But many places you could actually drink straight from the river. It was only after the 1965, let's say 1970, that the river started getting polluted. More because that was the beginning of the industrial era in Pune. Prior to that, there were only 2 large industrial estates, that is the Khadki Cantonment Board and the ammunition factory, and a few others, but that's about it. Industrialization hadn't really taken root, and chemical fertilizers were not being used in agriculture, and that's why very rarely were they used, and that's why the rivers were clean. The sewage which was released by the villages, which are a bit far from the main river, had just about enough sewage for it to get soaked up or, percolate down into the groundwater. So hardly any sewage actually entered the river, and therefore they were clean. The volume of water was also such that it got diluted. Whatever little sewage entered the river got cleaned out or diluted enough for people to bathe in it, to swim in it, sometimes even drink in it. Cattle and of course other animals did enter it, but that didn't really matter. For Ram Nadi, for example, I remember right up to 1985 that I could drink directly from Ram Nadi. The population started growing both in terms of natural growth and migration of the Gautran population. So population added to sewage and waste, because now sewage and waste started coming in through pipes or through drainages, which didn't happen in the past. Everybody just simply went to the fields. And so all that which could get internalized in the agrarian system started coming down to the river. You start the river restoration not at the river, but at the sub-streams which bring in all the muck. So if you stop it earlier, then less of the effluents or sewage would get into the river. So just as we say, for watershed development, we start with the top of the hill or the ridge line and then come to the bottom or the valley. Same is the case because the logic is the same. It comes from the higher points and aggregates near the river. So I would say that even river cleaning should, of course, if you start from the river, that's not a problem. You can start it from both sides and then meet somewhere in the middle. That's another option. But I would have thought that cleaning up the streams which join the river, even if it's a small river like Ram Nadi, would be a good idea. That means having pipelines or trenches along the Ram Nadi which collect the upstream Nala water smaller than Ram Nadi, and then taking it to a point where it's treated and put back into the stream, if it's clean enough. Otherwise, it could be used for irrigation. Non-point pollution is something which has to be stopped before we reach the river, not after we reach the river. So we are trying to solve the problem by first allowing it to become big and then trying to solve it, instead of solving it when it's relatively manageable. Earlier we used to simply speak of pollution treatment. That means clean up the river where the water is collected. Restoration is something different. Restoration is giving back land which belonged to the river for its own use. Every river has a natural channel, or what we call a bed, scoured out or dug out over millions of years. So that's a natural passage, natural canal, dug out and created by nature. It also has meanders for increasing the length of the stream so that it wouldn't be very rapid. It follows the slope. Sometimes what we do is, in case we have done in one or two spots, we have channelized and broken off the meander. Consequently, the river flows even more rapidly but straight down. Now, a lot of engineers used to feel that this is a great idea, but now it's been realized that allowing the river to own its own space is important. Instead of taking the river to a beauty parlor, the river needs to go to the ICU, not to a beauty parlor. Meaning is simple: clean up her systems which are meant to clean her body, which is the river basin. For that you need intensive care. So it's not talking about ICU or the hospitals. We need to put the Ram Nadi into intensive care, and we need to not think about it as superficial beautification. It is beautifying the river from inside, and that is the river underneath, on top, and so on. And if we take these two lines and apply them as touchstones for any activity which we are doing, are we turning our back to the river? Wrong. Are we facing the river and understanding it? Right. Are we cleaning up the river in an intensive care unit? Yes. Are we trying to give malampatti on top? Wrong. So there are very simple ways in which to check whether what you're doing is right or not right.
In April 2022, a big blow was about to be delivered to the already distressed ecosystem of the Ram Nadi, a waste management project on its banks in Bavthan. The realization brought many people together in the form of a human chain. What do you think was the result of this community action? Let's find out.
राम नदी ही लय होत पावलेली आहे, चालू आहे, त्याच्यावर अतिक्रमण आहे. त्याचबरोबर आता हे प्रदूषणाचं मोठं संकट येऊ पाहत आहे. तर याला विरोध करण्यासाठी जास्तीत जास्त नागरिकांनी या ठिकाणी उपस्थित राहणं आवश्यक आहे. मानवी साखळीचं आयोजन शांततापूर्ण मार्गाने आपण आयोजित केलेलं आहे.
मुळशीचे प्रवेशद्वार असलेले भोगाव, बुकुम आणि बावधन या तालुक्यात तुम्ही जर कचरा डेपो तयार केला तर तिन्ही गावांना खूप प्रश्नांना तोंड द्यावे लागेल.
आणि या ठिकाणी खऱ्या अर्थानं हा कचरा डेपो यात झाला नाही पाहिजे अशी शासनाला एक विनंती करतो.
जे लक्षावधी नागरिक राहतात त्यांच्या जीवनावरती ज्याचा परिणाम होणार आहे त्या सर्वांच्या मध्ये जागृती आणून हा सरकारचा जो कट आहे इथे तो हाणून पाडायचा आहे.
त्या राम नदीच्या फ्लड लाईन मध्ये हा कचरा प्रकल्प होत आहे. त्या मनमानी विरुद्ध आपण सर्व लोक एकत्र आलो
आणि सर्वजण राम नदीचं संवर्धन व्हावं यासाठी प्रयत्न करत आहेत आणि हा प्रकल्प जर या ठिकाणी झाला तर राम नदीचं पाणी पूर्णपणे दूषित होणार आहे.
नेक्स्ट जनरेशन जे पुढे येणारी पिढी आहे, जर आपण ह्या गोष्टीला आज विरोध नाही केला, निषेध नाही केला तर येणारी पिढी आपल्याला माफ करणार नाही, एवढं लक्षात ठेवा.
उद्या हा कचरा डेपो इथं झाला तर हेच कचरा आपल्या राम नदीमध्ये जाऊ शकतो आणि राम भुगावपासून ते पाषाणपर्यंत त्याचा सर्व नागरिकांना त्रास होणार आहे.
कचरा डेपो या ठिकाणी प्रशासनाच्या वतीने सुरू करण्यात आलेला आहे आणि या कचरा डेपोच्या माध्यमातून या नदीचं प्रदूषण होणार आहे. या नदीच्या स्रोताच्या माध्यमातून विविध भागांमध्ये जलस्रोत आणि त्यातनं बोरवेलच्या माध्यमातून पाणी आपल्यापर्यंत पोहोचत आहे. हे पाणी दूषित होणार आहे, इथलं पर्यावरण दूषित होणार आहे.
ही नदी जगण्यासाठी हिचं चांगल्या पद्धतीचं नियोजन होण्यासाठी हा कचरा डेपो हटवणं अत्यंत गरजेचं आहे. वेळ पडली तर आम्ही उच्च न्यायालयामध्ये, हायकोर्टामध्ये, सुप्रीम कोर्टामध्ये जाणार आणि हा प्रकल्प होऊ देणार नाही. आम्ही सर्व तुमच्या समक्ष साक्षीने मी या ठिकाणी सांगू इच्छितो.
किर्लोस्कर वसुंधराच्या माध्यमातून 13 पर्यावरण क्षेत्रात काम करणाऱ्या संस्थांचे प्रतिनिधी आहेत. 50 कॉलेजेस आपल्याबरोबर आहेत. राम नदीच्या काठावरच्या 25 शाळा या ठिकाणी आहेत आणि सुमारे 500 पर्यावरण प्रेमी, पर्यावरण तज्ज्ञ पुण्यातले हे आपल्याबरोबर आहेत. आपण आता एकटे नाही आहोत. आता सर्वजण या ठिकाणी आपापल्या राजकीय पक्षाचे जोडे बाहेर काढून इथे आलेले आहेत. ही घटना मला असं वाटतं पुण्यातली अत्यंत दुर्मिळ घटना आहे आणि त्यामुळे हा कचरा प्रकल्प रद्द होणार म्हणजे होणार.
In another effort to reach out to school children, RRM conducted different activities in schools situated along the Ram Nadi. Children participated in a drawing competition, waste to wealth competition, and wrote letters to the Ram Nadi. Here is a glimpse of RRM's school initiative.
राम नदीमध्ये जवळजवळ 3 ते 4 लाख लोक राहतात. आता ह्या प्रत्येक नागरिकाला कळलं की आपण प्रदूषण करू नये, आपल्या घरातला कचरा बाहेर टाकू नये किंवा घरातलं सांडपाणी कसं शुद्ध व्हावं ही जागृती करायची असेल तर 3-4 लोकांपर्यंत पोहोचलं पाहिजे. पैकी एक मार्ग म्हणजे शाळेतल्या मुलांपर्यंत आधी पोहोचायचं आणि म्हणून आपण राम नदी खोऱ्यातील 25 शाळांमध्ये हा जागृतीचा कार्यक्रम सुरू केलेला आहे. आता ह्या कार्यक्रमांतर्गत आमचा असा उद्देश होता की आधी मुलांमध्ये जागृती करूया, नंतर ते मुलं पालकापर्यंत जातील, मग पालकच जागृत होतील आणि वेळ पडल्यास वर्षातनं एकदा दोनदा ह्या शाळांमध्ये खास ह्या राम नदी रिस्टोरेशनसाठी पालकांची एक मीटिंग घ्यायची. पहिल्यांदा आम्ही असं केलं की राम नदी ओळख असं एक ऑडिओ व्हिज्युअल एक लेक्चर आम्ही प्रत्येक शाळेत जाऊन दिलं मुलांना. मग ते लेक्चरचा सुद्धा खूप मुलावर परिणाम झाला. मुलं त्या रामनदीला चांगली ओळखायला लागली आणि त्यानंतर मात्र ह्या ज्या 4 स्पर्धा घेतलेल्या आहेत, निबंध स्पर्धा, चित्रकला स्पर्धा, टाकाऊ तो टिकाऊ अशा काही ज्या स्पर्धा घेतल्या त्याचा आज बक्षीस वितरण समारंभ आहे आणि मी सर्व शिक्षक वर्गाचं नंतर ह्या मुलांचं खरंच कौतुक करतो की थोडाफार सक्सेस स्टोरी समजायचं म्हटलं तर जी रामनदी काही वर्षापूर्वी मुलांना माहीत नव्हती ती आता बहुतेक मुलांना माहीत झालेली आहे.
आपल्याला प्लास्टिक मुक्त शाळा ही आपल्याला करायची आणि त्याकरता पालकांचं आम्हाला खूप मोठं सहकार्य पाहिजे.
मला वाटतं राम नदी रिस्टोरेशन मिशन शाळांपर्यंत मुलांपर्यंत जे पोचतं आहे ते ह्या विचारातनं पोचतं आहे की मुलं ही भावी एक आशा आहे की ज्यांच्या वर्तणुकीमुळे होणारा फक्त राम नदीचा नव्हे पण पर्यावरणाचा नाश टळू शकेल.
ही जी चित्र काढली आहेत, जे निबंध लिहिलेत ते सुद्धा मी वाचले, आम्ही सगळ्यांनी वाचले आणि तुम्हाला राम नदीबद्दल किती प्रेम आहे, तुम्ही कसा विचार करता नदीबद्दल, आपल्या जवळून वाहणाऱ्या पाण्याबद्दल, याचा मला खूप आनंद झाला की तुम्ही हा विचार करू शकताय, करताय ना तुम्ही विचार हा की आपली नदी स्वच्छ राहावी, आपल्या गावाजवळून वाहणारं पाणी अतिशय छान असावं, त्या पाण्यामधून आपल्याला चालता यावं. वाटतं की नाही असं आपल्याला की नदी कशी स्वच्छ ठेवता येईल मुलांच्या माध्यमातून? तर काय त्यासाठी आधी आपण निबंध स्पर्धा भरवल्या, मग तुम्हाला नदीची जाणीव करून दिली, नदीबद्दल तुमच्या मनामध्ये एक छान प्रेम निर्माण करून दिलं, नदीचं महत्त्व काय आहे हे तुम्हाला पटवून दिलं, मग तुम्ही नदीची चित्र काढली. आता प्रत्यक्ष नदी आपल्याला नदीला भेटायचं की नाही, मग ती नदी कशी स्वच्छ असावी हे जर तुम्ही सगळ्यांनी तुम्ही यातले प्रमुख आहात, तुम्ही पालकांना सांगितलं की नाही आपल्याला ही नदी स्वच्छ ठेवायची आहे, येणाऱ्या जाणाऱ्यांना सांगितलं ही नदी आपल्याला स्वच्छ ठेवायची आहे, तर सगळे ऐकतात. कारण का लहान मुलांचं सगळे ऐकतात. आम्ही नदी स्वच्छ करणार म्हणजे करणारच. नदीच्या पाण्यामध्ये घाण टाकणार नाही, प्लास्टिक टाकणार नाही. झुळझुळ वाहणारी नदी ही आमच्या गावासाठी, गावातल्या प्रत्येकासाठी उपयोगाची आहे आणि ती स्वच्छ ठेवणे हे आम्हा सर्वांचे कर्तव्य आहे आणि या कर्तव्याचे आम्ही सर्व पालन करू.
A large part of household waste is wet waste, which can easily be turned into biogas and fertilizers instead of ending up in landfills and along riverbanks. Dry waste is also equally valuable and can be recycled and upcycled. The next film by Eco India showcases a model for handling waste in Mumbai, which ultimately prevents pollution of groundwater, one of the major sources of river water.
It gives Shalu immense pride in describing what a regular workday is like for her at the Tata Institute of Social Sciences in Mumbai's Chembur area. She's in charge of operating an entire biogas digester system that transforms wet waste into biogas and organic fertilizer. It's been about 15 years of working with waste for Shalu. But the journey from a waste picker to an operator of a biogas system has been a rewarding one.
कचरा फेकण्यापेक्षा गॅस तयार होतो आणि खत पण भेटतं. मग त्याचा खताचा पण फायदा होतो. त्याच्यानंतर तर गॅस जेवण बनतं. त्याचा पण फायदा आहे ना. आणि ते पाणी पण परत रिसायकल होऊन सनी आपण वापस याच्यामध्ये घेऊ शकतो. बायोगॅसमध्ये पाणी याच्यामध्ये टाकायला. म्हणजे वेस्ट काहीच जात नाही.
Till date, the plant has processed about 1,000 tons of food waste from the campus dining hall and generated biogas equivalent to 2,000 LPG cylinders, which is then used for cooking.
हमारी बेसिकली जो समस्या थी 7 साल पहले की, वो जो फूड वेस्ट जो निकलते हैं कैंपस में कैंटीन में, उसको किस तरह से डिस्पोज किया जाए, क्योंकि बीएमसी ने ये फूड वेस्ट वगैरह ले जाने के लिए काफ़ी दिक्कत करते थे, नहीं ले जाते थे. पहले तो ये फूड वेस्ट वगैरह हम कहीं पे भी एक गड्ढे में डाल देते थे. इससे कुछ इतना फ़ायदा नहीं होता था. लोगों का कंप्लेंट आता था, स्मेल आ रहा है, ये आ रहा है, वो आ रहा है. फिर क्या करना है, फिर हमें ये संपूर्ण से एक आइडिया मिला कि भाई आप बायोगैस प्लांट इंस्टॉल करो.
The biogas plant at TIS was the first project for Sampurna Earth, a social enterprise founded by 3 young entrepreneurs who wanted to offer their city a sustainable, cyclical waste management system that worked towards transforming waste into utilizable resources, a long overdue requirement for the maximum city.
The problem with the way waste is handled in Mumbai or generally across the country is so the lot of waste is transported and dumped into dumping ground. Only a small amount is getting processed, and even in that a lot of it is done through informal sector. So with a lot of transportation happening, there is emissions, and with a lot of waste going to dumping ground, one is the space is being taken up, and a lot of chemical reaction happens, and chemicals leach to the groundwater, and there is a lot of methane emissions that happen because of degradation in the dumping ground, which again leads to the global warming. And there are a lot of informal sector people involved who not necessarily work in good working conditions. Sampurna Earth originated with a very simple idea that everything in nature is cyclic. Every material has a purpose, but the waste management system which we have is a non-cyclic one, where we take out resources, use it, and then dump it. So it's a non-cyclic process. So what we wanted to do was to convert this into a cyclic process, have compost systems and biogas systems for wet waste, and have recycling system for all the non-biodegradable materials.
People who produce a staggering 10 to 12,000 metric tons of trash every single day. Mumbai's population is expected to leap to more than 42 million by 2050. The city, with Asia's second largest dumping ground sitting in the middle of it, is drowning in its garbage.
The biggest problem with Mumbai's waste is the quantum that we are generating. About 10,000 metric tons of waste is generated every day, and not everything is collected. Only about 75 to 80% is collected. More than that, about 50% or 55% of the population in Mumbai is residing in slums, and service levels in these low income localities, you see, they are not up to the mark at all, and we end up a lot of waste uncollected, and it ultimately get into our water bodies or nalas or sewers and all that, ultimately choking them. So this is one of the most critical problems. Secondly, Mumbai, as you know, has a lot of space shortage, and because we are not managing waste properly, because we are managing waste in a most unscientific manner, we are not really able to take out that resource value from waste. What is expected really is that we segregate waste at source, we take out that economic value, we convert it to compost, bio-CNG or biogas, and whatever dry waste is generated, it is linked to market. There are so many rack pickers working in the sector, including in Mumbai. So what happens is that they work informally. If we can integrate them all together, if they play a critical role in collecting this dry waste, we can really do wonders in the sector.
Mahindra Pandit is a crucial link in Sampurna Earth's dry waste management system. It is through vendors like him that the company plays its role as a scrap broker, buying segregated scrap from a network of waste pickers in the city at a fair price and helping formalize the largely informal sector.
The way that we function our dry waste collection processes and also recycling processes, we label it under a common thing called dry waste marketplace. So the way that we are trying to achieve the marketplace like concept is how we can get the multiple stakeholders, the informal collectors like waste pickers, the scrap dealers, the waste dealers that we know, the informal recyclers as well as the formalized recyclers, all under a single umbrella. So that is the collection part. But apart from that, we are also working with the brands and manufacturers who are using plastic in their packaging goods as well as using for different purposes. So now under the recent plastic waste management rules, even though they are mandated to collect back plastic and take it to proper recycling and disposal channels, so even they become an important part of the stakeholders. They also come under our dry waste marketplace.
All the dry waste collected through the day is brought here, the company's dry waste marketplace, where further segregation takes place by certified and uniformed waste sorters before being finally sold to recyclers. One of the biggest challenges waste warriors face when they set out to change the way waste is handled in India is not just ignorance but also apathy.
One is the way we behave as a citizen. We, even after number of reminders, number of behavioral change programs, people are not really able to source segregate the waste. I think that can be the starting point. If we as a citizen, anyone in the country or in the city like Mumbai or any other city, if we understand our responsibility as a citizen, we support authorities in segregating waste into three categories, that is biodegradable waste, non-biodegradable waste and domestic hazardous waste. I think we can win the battle up to 80% in the first shot itself.
The Deonar dumping ground in the city's eastern suburbs rises 60 meters high, looming over Mumbai, releasing huge amounts of methane gas, occasionally catching fire. The Mulund landfill, Mumbai's second largest dumping ground, was also permanently closed after it reached its saturation point. Mumbai currently spends 3,000 to 4,000 crore rupees a year to transport garbage from around the city to the dump, most of which goes completely untreated or sorted. Out of the 10,000 metric tons of trash produced each day, only 27% of Mumbai's solid waste is segregated and treated. The dumps in Mumbai have become some of the largest, least regulated, and most hazardous in the world.
So Mumbai has three dumping grounds, so to say. They are not really landfill site, because landfill site by definition have to have some minimum standards, have to cater to the need of refuse garbage that can be used for nothing, and that constitutes not more than maybe 10-20%. By law, as per the service level benchmark the country has defined for itself, that quantity should not exceed 20%, but in our case that quantity is going to as high as 60-70%. That simply means that our landfill site or dumping grounds are filling within no time, and huge amount. Deonar landfill, for example, is being used for since 90+ years. No landfill site is designed for more than 25 to 30 years, and it has a scientific way, engineering way to design it, and they are not designed in that way actually, unfortunately.
was a big step in the right direction when the Mumbai Western Railways, one of the 6 and busiest railway divisions under the Western Railway zone of the Indian Railways, realized that it had a problem. Dadar station is home to the biggest vegetable market in Mumbai, and while that means farm fresh vegetables and low prices, it also means waste. Lots and lots of it.
The project at Bandra Terminus that was started by a company called Arcel, wherein the idea was to process the waste generated at Dadar market, the vegetable market. So we set up a waste processing facility at Bandra Terminus, wherein we could process the waste of the market as well as of the station. So there we compost the wet waste and channelize the dry waste for recycling.
In Western countries, a simple tea bag is put into 3 bins, where the tea bag goes to one bin, the paper goes to one bin, even the pin goes to a different bin. To get to that level of system, definitely people have to be more cooperative, and they need to awareness is one, but they have to move to a behavior where they are actively doing it. It's a massive behavior change. It only takes a few minutes a day, but if that becomes a habit, it's nothing.
Sampurnath handles around 70 tons of waste per day, and in 7 years we would have done around 35 to 40,000 metric ton.
Sampurnath's end goal is to be able to provide waste solutions for a changing world. But organizations like theirs will only succeed if people come forward and do their part.